Hey Karen, how are you?
I'm doing all right. It's spring, so I'm focusing on as many positive things as possible right now.
Yeah, no, me. I'm get out of jail. Come on, it's lovely to see you, and it is spring. So the last 2 days were spectacular, weren't they, in Melbourne?
Yeah, no, it's been really nice. I think that's nature's way of saying I think these guys need a bit of sunshine. So yeah, no, that's been good.
Well, I hope nature can be a bit more generous over the next 2 or 3 months. Now, look, let's get into some really good things that are happening. The wellbeing system that you put up. Everett's been out chatting to about 10 people. Talk a bit about that very quickly, and it's just been a raging success. It's been great.
Yeah, no, it's been some fantastic feedback we've received and wonderful interest as well from the Friday Workplace Briefing community. So whatever it's done, for those who have been in touch, and I know there's a few others who've got in touch yesterday and today as well. So we'll make sure we get it to you guys. Everett's just been spending half an hour to take you through or taking people through the tool rather than just send you a document. Spend a bit of time, understand what it is that you want to achieve with it, so that and show you how to make it work. So you get the.
Joe just said the wellbeing system is awesome, and Everett has been great. Thank you. So
good.
Please, if you want more on that, go straight to Karen, and we'll help you with it. This is a free thing, as I said, as an old Scotsman. You're not going to get a lot more from me, so enjoy it. Really great news. Matt Ryman has now been appointed as a senior associate in our workplace team. You know, Matt is a clever, deeply quirky. Sorry, Matt, but one of the funniest men. You know, loves pro wrestling.
Good quirky.
Good quirky. Loved by his person who's been in our business 6 months and has just been embraced by everyone within the team, and is such a clever, practical, and good lawyer. So Matt, well done, and we're really excited about appointing Matt as a senior associate, and he is a terrific message to the community about what a good lawyer should look like.
Yeah, absolutely. He's fantastic. He's great to work with. Matt and I work on a couple of things together as well. And yeah, he's been, everyone loves him, so which is great.
Yeah. All right, another Matt. Are You OK Day is on. I just want to have a brief, small rant, and I know that things are going to come up here very shortly. You know, as a firm, you see weekly we do things. We just did a pulse survey of all our staff about the physical exercise regime to identify what levels people want to do, what days, hours they want to do. And the reason we do that is to obviously fit people in with their family and their health needs. And because we focus on this daily, weekly, and Karen and I catch up once a week, deal with her and my team on it. The reason we do that is to get beyond below the line well-being, that is, people are able to come to work, to people are very happy, productive, and living better lives because of it. My concern about Are You OK Day, and I've had the experience, is that once a year, it's a bit like Father's Day, someone comes up and says to me, and they did this in my last firm, a person who really didn't give a shit, came to me and said, you know, with this solemn look on their face, look, I just thought I'd check in, Andrew, are you okay? And I said, well, what happened to the other 364 days? So the difficulty is if this is used as an instigator for action upon a day, it's like a surgeon opening you up, not fixing you and then leaving you to bleed to death. I think it is a great thing, and it's grown people's awareness. So I admire the idea behind it, but I fear the outcome that it's like a Father's Day or Mother's Day, where fathers and mothers work every day, every hour of the day. And once a year, they get given a cup they never wanted. Karen, over to you.
Jesus, like, look at you, just off your chop this morning, aren't you? Anyway, no, look at Andrew, just to kind of level that out a little bit. I must say that, think about it, the last 5 years, 10 years, we're having more conversations now, and there's more awareness now than there's ever been. So there's a lot of positive that's coming out of it, and I think it's a wonderful initiative. But I do agree with you that if it is tokenistic, if you're just using it once a year, and asking people, then it should be an everyday conversation. And I don't mean every day by are you okay every single day, no, but it's about communication, it's about engagement. You either care or you don't care. So if you do, you know, we would do that by default, and we do that really naturally. So with that, I won't ask you today, Andrew, because I ask you every other day in my other kind of ways, but I'll drop a note to your kids and remind them, maybe check in and tell them that they love them rather than just tell you on Father's Day.
One of those 27 cups I don't drink from. No, that's good. Okay.
All right,
moving on. But thank you, and thanks, Margaret, for your comment too. We've got a few cases today. We've got I think a really interesting show today in some ways. I'm starting to call it a show. Look, I want the media. We've been in the green room. We're here. Independent contractors case. Last week I warned you that we'd get some really bad court decisions around independent contractors, and wow, did it happen? Parker and HG Innovations is a case about it. It's the third case this guy has run trying to say that he's an employee. He worked in a brokerage of cars being sold to Uber drivers. He was seen as the general manager. Remember, under the tests that currently exist before this High Court case is currently being run, there are two lines of tests. One is control. Does the host control the actions of the independent contractor to such a stage that they'd be deemed to be an employee? But the second one is administrative. Are they seen to be an employee of the business? Are they treated as part of a hierarchy? So in this crazy case, the Queensland Federal Court judge hearing an appeal found this guy was definitely an independent contractor because he held himself out to be an independent contractor under the contract in accordance with the WorkPac decision. Now, it is just bad law, okay? And we're going to see a lot of this bad law coming up, misquoting what WorkPac says until the High Court eventually set out with great clarity what is an independent contractor. And there is no doubt that the control test will stay in there. This was a guy who received all his work from one source. He only had that opportunity because of the source he received. He had limits upon what he was done. He was paid a set salary with commissions. I've got to tell you, I don't care what his contract said. I don't care that he paid tax like an independent contractor. The difference in bargaining power is so substantial that the old test should properly apply. But the judge applied WorkPac without reading the depth of what the WorkPac decision did say about independent contractors, which is it doubted the full relevance of the casual analysis to independent contractors. Just putting it out there, there's still going to be a lot of bad law over the next 6 months. Next case was Turvey and Roversworth, which was an abattoir work where a 62-year-old worker became incensed with a co-worker who thought or said deliberately burnt them with hot water and approached them with meat workers' scissors in a threatening manner. The employer had made it very clear that any form of violence or threat of violence was unacceptable, and they were terminated. What the commissioner said, now this really brings you to the politics of courts again, because there's a number of commissioners who would not have come to this conclusion. I'll explain why. The commissioner said it was very clear that the meatworks would not allow anyone to behave in that manner, and in the past had been very clear they would not accept violence in the workplace, and therefore it was appropriate in the circumstance. And when you saw the CCTV, it was clearly threatening, and it was doubtful whether there was intentional throwing the hot water. So that's what the commission said. So they upheld the dismissal. But I just want to be very clear. One of the criticisms is that the employer knew the two employees were not getting on well. They knew that there was angst and difficulty, and there had been angst and difficulty in the past. No performance process was in place, and they have continued to allow them to work together with a known risk. Now, Karen, we only have to go to OH&S law to understand how flawed this was and how OHS law plays into conduct management and employment law. A number of other commissioners would have said, you've permitted this to occur. You've created the risks around it. You can't then complain when it occurs. That's the law of condonation. What do you think, Karen?
Yeah, I think look, if there's a risk, if two employees aren't getting along and more than just not liking each other, and that actually there is a real or genuine risk there around someone potentially getting hurt, then you do need to put in a control in place, and that you treat it as no other type, the same way as any other type of hazard at the workplace. So from a safety standpoint, yes, you need to go through in terms of managing that, but also from an employment point of view, it's just not that. If it's about poor behaviours or poor performance or whatever it is, that's the issue, underlying issue, that doesn't continue the way it does. You still need to do something very active about that.
You need to intervene, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the hesitation though, Andrew. I think when these things have happened in the past, employers goes, well, how far do you go and how much can you actually do? He goes, well, it's not just a safety piece, it's an employment piece. So
but it clearly breaches safety law not to do the analysis. You know, the reasonable practicability of identifying a hazard. Well, we know what the hazard is. Okay. What's the level of risk that attends that? Well, it's actually pretty high. and subsequently materialised. Is there controls that you could use through performance and conduct management? Yeah, absolutely. And if it was not fixable, then they should have been separated. Do you have the resources in the organisation to do it? Yes, you do. But the problem is Australian society has this habit of saying, it'll be right. We'll tell people don't be a dick, and they'll stop being it. Well, we only need to see the anti-vaxxers demonstrating down in Flinders Street to know that analysis doesn't work. Okay. All right.
You're on fire.
I am on fire this morning. Let me continue the fire. The Morrison government has quietly introduced the no-fault COVID indemnity scheme effective from 6 September 2021, which goes right back to any injury or illness that arises from COVID vaccination from February 2021, and means anything over $5,000 a person can make a claim against that indemnity scheme. The reason is that there wasn't a big press release. The reason is our friend Mr. Morrison didn't get up and spruik what a great idea it was, is it supports mandatory vaccination. And he's got a one-seat majority, and he holds that with the blessing of 3 anti-vaxxers. So he's not talking about it, but it was absolutely necessary, and business has repeatedly said, you must give us this because we need in many settings to mandate vaccination, and we will wear the liability of it. So I think what we can say around mandatory vaccination, Karen's going to spend quite a bit more time on this is the insurance we needed to be able to move to the next step of employers saying vaccination is critical. Because by employers saying, and we'll do it at work, we'll get it done at work, they're accepting a liability which is unlimited liability, which is uninsurable under their current policies. So now we have a statutory indemnity. Sorry, Ray, you're right. Don't be a dick would be an administrative control. I'm sorry about that. You're right. Not a very good one, and it's shameful language early in the day. So please accept my apologies. My controls are not always the best. Certainly my own control is not always the best. But so I think this is a really important thing. It's a pity it hasn't found its way into the major press. It's a pity that the industry organisations haven't picked it up and said, thank you very much, Mr. Morrison, and thank you very much, Mr. Morrison, because it's critical in the next stage of what we do that we have this indemnity that sits there. So it's good news. Karen, I need to calm down. At that stage, I'm going to hand over to you on the mandatory vaccination work you're doing with a whole number of clients at the moment. Perhaps you'd like to have a chat about it.
Yeah, sure. Look, we've received, we're supporting a number of clients at the moment who are exploring the mandatory vaccination pathway and seriously considering implementing this at the workplace. So first of all, look, I understand and appreciate, and I think everyone appreciates the intent of, I guess, that direction, because we all want to be able to open up businesses and get back to our running a normal life, whatever that looks like now. But in terms of how do you make that happen at the workplace, and how do you how you make it happen is through a risk assessment process, because you need to demonstrate that there's been a risk management approach that's been applied. Now, the concept is simple, but in terms of getting it organised is rather complex. So
can I just answer there? Anne's asked the question around privacy legislation, the collection of data. You are able to collect it, okay? You do have to have some controls around it. If you speak to Nina Ann of our business, she'll talk you through what those rules are, okay?
Yeah. So on that, if you're considering the idea of rolling out vaccinations across your workplace, please conduct a risk assessment, because you'll need to demonstrate why it is a necessary control or critical control based on the type of work that you do, the profile employees that you have, and etc. So the source type, so what I've got here for you is just
Can I just clarify, Karen, there's 2 parts to that, and I'm sorry I am cutting across you. To do the risk assessment, you must collect the health-related information that's relevant to your industry and your workplace. Okay, 2 different things: industry, workplace. And it's only upon that information that you can then undertake the risk assessment. Now, Sally McManus has been clear with the ACTU that they will support that process, okay? But they will not support any process, and they probably won't support any process that doesn't follow that pathway. And that is the guidance from the Fair Work Ombudsman as well.
Yeah, and with that, so that's been listed there for you. So from a legislation point of view, we're looking at the very least, everybody, this isn't by way, not an exhaustive list, okay? So certainly, and this is done here in the Victorian context, the OH&S Act. There are a series of different discrimination law as well that you'll need to consider. There's quite a list, so I didn't put it all there.
Which just raised. If someone is unable to do it because of a health-related issue, then you look at discrimination law and what are the adjustments that can be made. But if it goes to the inherent requirements, if you're a tier 1 employee and a person can't be vaccinated and it's unsafe for that person to be at work, then I'm afraid they may not be able to be at work. And we can talk about that more at another time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see just even just on that part alone, depending on the profile and the size of your workforce, the type of work that you do, it gets really complex, right? So there's regulations that you need to refer to as well. So I've got there the COVID vaccination policy, the federal one for you, but also the OH&S regs. But the more in terms of other things that you need to look at. So they're the public health orders. Andrew mentioned earlier the Fair Work Ombudsman in terms of vaccination obligations. WorkSafe have some material, as does Safe Work Australia, around information for workplaces. There are industry guidelines available through Business Victoria, and also touching on earlier around the relevant WorkSafe guidelines, compliance codes, but also industry codes of practice to help you assess in terms of where those critical risks are and to help you, I guess, build that argument around.
Let's cut to the chase for this, Karen. There's a whole lot of people who are seeing mandatory vaccination as a silver bullet. I just want to say it's not, okay? Remember, it's a blunt tool. Risk assessment is actually quite subtle and nuanced in the way that you do stuff. But why we do things in a workplace is because we supply a service or a product through the people who we care about. So our focus has always got to be purpose-driven. What is it we do and what are the values that we live through? And just like when we talked about well-being, this is an everyday issue. By mandating vaccination, you may cause a dispute. You mightn't create a solution at all. But if we go through a consultative process using Karen's resources here, and we say to people, this is what we need and this is why, then we get there. But what's happening at the moment is we're seeing this done by stealth. We're seeing organisations say nobody can enter our site without double vaccination proof. Suppliers, anyone can come on our site. And gradually then introducing it through new contracts. That's all wrong. What we need to do is know what the risk is.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the risk first. Let's consult with people around that. But what we want to do is get people back to working in their best potential, in their best way. That's what we want. And by mandating something and saying no, that doesn't necessarily help.
No, every time, and this is more broadly across safety, Andrew, every time you implement a control, it creates other risks and other hazards as well and other issues, okay? And that's just purely on safety. We're not talking about culturally, we're not talking about communication, engagement, employment, all the other stuff. So that's why I'm saying that if you're thinking about going down this pathway, just get the advice, and it is a very comprehensive process. So, just get the support that you need to get it done right, because it can go wrong very easily, is what I'm saying.
And the answer, look at our business now, spread across 2 different sites in Melbourne and Sydney, and everyone is on that vaccination path. We haven't mandated it. But we've provided leave, we've provided support, we've provided information, we talk about and celebrate it at our team meetings. There's a whole lot of ways of getting to where you need to get out without reaching for your gun. Now, I'm not saying don't mandate it, all right? Yes, Margaret, you also have to get it. In Victoria, that's not so easy at the moment. But we are going to get it, and I agree with you. But all I'm suggesting to you is don't be sold too much on mandating something. There is a number of ways to cook it. Think it through and look at risk first. Adopt the same approach they use if those. Yeah, look, and can I just say, Karen, flu vaccination, there's 2 cases on it which show you can mandate it under what are called tier 1 or tier 2 risks under the Fair Work Ombudsman. It's no problems. We can mandate it. It's not a problem. There is a system behind if you have the risk. Childcare centres have the risk, so you can mandate it, okay? Now, look, we better move on because I'll get too excited and we've got other things to talk about. The next thing I want to talk to you about is, and we've published a great article from Julia and Kim on the new amendments, the Fair Work Amendment, Supporting Australia Jobs and Economic Recovery Act. For anyone who wants to know what that really means, that's the casual conversion under the Fair Work Act, which I don't understand why they call it such a silly name. But from 27 September, all non-award employees who are casual and have been casual for at least 12 months must be offered, and there are exceptions, casual conversion. Okay. So what Kim and Julie have done has provided a very detailed list around that. Now, remember, there are two sets of casual conversion and they have different tests. There is casual conversion under awards, okay, which again is at least 12 months, but the test of what is a casual is slightly different. So it has to be regular, somebody who's employed on a regular and systemic basis under the award. It needs to be a regular pattern of hours under the Fair Work Act. You see there's differences and they just keep happening. You can look at personal circumstance of an employee under an award. You can look at the future of the trading of the organisation or the job over the next 12 months under an award. Each time there are slightly different problems with it. So I want you to think about that. Peter Reichenberg, I'll come back to you, mate. I'm sorry, I'm on a different topic now. What I've got is a cheat sheet, and it's going to have Matt's contact details on it, which shows you exactly what are the difference between award conversion and non-award, that is Fair Work Act conversion. Okay, but what I want you to understand is don't get distracted by WorkPack, which people are at the moment going, oh, they're only a casual if their contract says they're. No, that's going forward. If someone is presently being treated as a casual, they're a non-award based casual, then you must offer them casual conversion unless there are reasonable business reasons for refusing that. And the reasonable business reasons for refusing that are things like the position will cease to exist in 12 months. The hours will significantly reduce over 12 months. Days and times of work will dramatically change. Okay, there's big differences. So go to Matt's cheat sheet and test it. For everybody else, I want you to go back and think, for an employee who is under an award, they can request it. You don't have to offer it. Okay, they request it. Whereas under the award, you must do it. So they're the major differences. But as I said, in a much more glossy form, after our producer Sophie gets through with this, he does glossy good things, I don't, you will have Matt's cheat sheet. It is fantastic. It is an absolutely gun piece of work. And Kim and Julia's article on it, which has already been published, is just a great article on the Fair Work Act and what it means. Okay, so they're the two things I wanted to talk to you about today. Now, Peter Reichenberg asks, can I eliminate the risk with vaccination? The path forward increases the risk of impact on my workplace. Sorry, I can't eliminate the risk. You're absolutely right, Peter, and that's why, and Peter's one of the best engineering risk assessors I've seen. You've got to go back to the risk assessment and say vaccination is only part of a solution. Okay? And how do I obtain a copy of that great work on casuals? You don't even have to worry about it, Jenny. It's coming straight to you. Okay, at the end of today, Sophie will send out the cheat sheet and the article is already up. Okay, but Sophie, you're listening, I know. Can you make sure we send the article out as well? We're also sending out the article on long service leave, we promised you, which analyses long service leave for overseas workers across Australia. So we've done that. And you can see how powerful this new Victorian case was. Okay, now for Rachel who asked, what about casual under enterprise agreement? Casuals under enterprise agreement are captured under the award, okay? Because they replace the award or are the award and therefore are captured under it. Very good.
Okay, we've got a case study
well.
and
Now
a fun one.
We go on to case study. What a great case study this is today. And can I just say to Julia and Matt, who wrote this case study, I normally write them, but they did it today because they're the masters of casual conversion. Terry and Mavis work as casuals at a trendy Melbourne bar hop. By the way, that was my name. Bar hop has approximately 50 employees. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, bar hop has been closed for around 200 days since March 2020. Terry, named after my dog, is HR manager who was employed 3 years ago to manage payroll every Tuesday and deal with ad hoc employee performance issues. Due to COVID-19, he has assisted with the opening and closing of the business, so that's extra work that needs to be done, and recruiting new employees. Terry's employment is award agreement free, so is only covered by the Fair Work Act. In the last 6 months, Terry has only worked 6 days due to COVID-19. Mavis is an international student who waitresses at bar hop every Friday and Saturday and during school holidays since February 2020. Mavis' employment is covered by the Hospitality Industry General Award 2020. Mavis has informed bar hop She misses her family in Sri Lanka and is planning to return home as soon as she can, subject to COVID restrictions. Bar Hop is in the process of negotiations with being taken over by a Singaporean bar conglomerate and is likely it will go ahead on 30 June 2022. If Bar Hop chooses to do this, they will look for efficiencies, including in-housing their own payroll and HR managers. All right, this is tough because this is the first introduction that you've had. We're over to the polling. I got Vicky and Joe. We weren't expecting the music. Can I just say
we
that?
weren't.
I love it, but we weren't expecting it. I think that's how we're going with numbers. We're doing pretty well.
We're doing all right. I think most people now.
I think we've
got
got.
to wrap it up in the next 5 seconds. Yeah.
All right. So look, the first question: do you have to offer casual conversion to Terry in accordance with the Fair Work Act? Well, one of the tests is it's not the last 12 months of work; it's the last 6 months of work. And Terry has only worked 6 days, and there is no pattern of hours that you could look at. My gut feeling is you wouldn't have to offer Terry casual conversion. Okay. From Pick-a-Box. It could have been Pick-a-Box, couldn't it? Okay, so that's the first part. Isn't that odd? So that shows you the difference, because if Terry had been under an award, you would have looked at the 12-month period and you would have definitely had to consider the casual conversions. All right. The next question is, are there reasonable grounds to refuse casual conversion to Mavis if she elects to convert? And I think the answer is, again, this is part of the curiosity of the tests and why we have the cheat sheet, okay? Certainly under the reasons that it is reasonable for you not to offer conversion. I think it's the music. You're right, Joe. I'm not sure I've got the answers right. Under what is reasonable for award-based employees is their personal circumstances. And here she has made it clear she will not be there in 12 months' time. So the short answer is we don't have to do it. Andrew, you should be answering this in the form of a question. I probably should be too. So is that clear? Clear as mud, isn't it? But the most important thing is definitely as an award-based employee, we could refuse to offer to convert because she won't be there in 12 months' time, okay? These are a non-exclusive list of what is reasonable. So when you go to a non-award-based employee, a Fair Work Act employee, significant changes to the employee. So the answer is yes. The answer is yes, you could refuse. Very good. Sorry, Tanya, I'm not helping, am I? Let's go to question 3. I'll be better. Is the takeover of the business a reasonable ground to not offer casual conversion to both employees? Well, tricky question. I didn't draft that question, so it's not quite a fair question either, because it's a split choice. It is a reasonable basis for refusing an offer of conversion to Terry under the award, because one of the grounds is that the job will no longer be there in 12 months' time. Okay, so it's absolutely clear. Don't have to offer it to Terry on that basis. Mavis, it's not that clear, because although it's not exclusive list, it doesn't say anything about that 12-month period. Okay, and she has had a history of working, and she's not going to lose. There's going to be no loss of bar jobs. There will be HR jobs for Terry. Okay, loss of HR jobs. So Terry's definitely gone, but Mavis's job is not gone. So the only way we can refuse Mavis really is on the basis that she says she's going home and won't be there in 12 months' time. Jenny, what about the transfer of business provisions? They have the effect of this case study, which is there is in transfer of business based on an associated entity. In this case, it would be a transfer of business to the Singaporean entity. There would be expected continuity of employment unless the job was terminated during that transfer process. So that would definitely say that Terry was out in the transfer of business. But Mavis' employment would be expected to continue, although she's casual, shift from shift, in a transfer of business. So look, really complicated. And the reason I did it today, I guess, was to say to you, this is much harder than it looks. And that's why Matt's created this great cheat sheet. And that's why we've put his contact details so you can go directly to him with your questions without being charged on it. Just ring him up and ask him. But it was a tough one today. You've got lots of stuff coming out, the long service leave. You've got the cheat sheet. You've got everything today from us. You were handing out a lot of free stuff recently. How did this ever happen? But thank you very much for coming along. Big couple of weeks mandating. We'll know a lot more about mandating vaccination next week. So I want to deal with that again next week as a key part of the discussion. But thank you everyone for coming along today. It was a big day. Thanks, Karen, again. Thanks, Soph. The music. Cheers.
Okay, see you, everyone.
Bye-bye.